Today, I'm going to be giving you guys a step-by-step tutorial on how to leverage tools in Vapi that allow your AI voice assistant to perform certain functions or access to external data or a connection to any external server, which opens up endless possibilities of what your AI voice assistant is capable of. So let's dive right into it. So I'm here on the tools page of my Vapi dashboard. Now you'll see there's a big list of tools to choose from, but let me tell you something. What you're going to be using most of the time is this custom tool. The rest are pretty self-explanatory and I'm going to cover them briefly at the end of the video, but let's start with the custom tool. I've already made one here. So what this is going to do is that it's going to send a request to this particular server from your AI voice assistant. And you define the parameters here that you want to be sent along with that request to the server. For example, for this video, let's just say we want our voice assistant to be able to tell the weather of a certain region, right? So the tool name is just something that we're gonna tell our AI voice assistant to that you're gonna use this tool. So let's just call it weather tool. And then the description tells the assistant what the tool is about so that I can use it properly. So let's just say, so this tool is going to give us the weather data for a certain region that the user selects. Now, how will the tool know what that region is? We define it here in the parameters. So let's call it region, and it's just the region of which the weather data needs to be known. So here you have types. It could be string, number, boolean, object, array. So our parameter is a word or a phrase, so it's going to be string. And here you could check if it's required or not. I mean, unless the assistant has this value, it's not going to run the tool if I check it to required. So I want that. So we're going to say apply. Okay. Now, before we get to this, let me just show you how it's done for the assistant. Create a new assistant and give it a simple prompt of, okay, so I made a simple prompt just to explain how it's done. So you use the weather tool to give information about the weather of the region they choose. So you simply go to tools here and you select that tool. That's it. Now your LLM has access to this tool and it can call the tool in the middle of the conversation when needed. And when to call the tool, you're going to tell it in the prompt. So publish this. Okay. Now we go back to our tools. So here you have to put the URL of the server that the assistant will send a request to, and in the response, it will get the weather data of that particular region that you chose, and you give it in the parameter. So this is a variable which could have a value of, for example, Los Angeles or California. I'll show you. So for the server, I'm going to be using make.com, where you can make no code workflows. So it's pretty simple to use. So you just head over to make.com, log in and create a new scenario. So make.com workflows work in nodes. So one node is going to perform one task and the other is going to perform that task, and it moves in order. So it's pretty easy to visualize it, no code. So our Vapi AI voice assistant needs to be able to call this workflow. So it's going to make a request to the make.com server, and our server is going to execute this workflow and return the response. So for the request, we need a webhook, which is going to be triggered when a request comes in from our Vapi voice assistant. So we're just going to use a custom webhook, create a new webhook, and you can add authentication from here if you want, if you don't want unauthorized access to your workflow. Okay, so we now have this server URL, which we can copy to our clipboard, and we're going to paste it right here. So let's just test it out so that make.com can evaluate the data structure, which you'll know why is important in a few seconds. Hey, can you tell me what the weather is in California right now?
It seems like there was an issue retrieving the weather information.
Okay. Now let's just call this tool. Let me move myself up. Great. Now let's just execute this workflow so I can show you guys what the data actually looks like. Hey, can you tell me the weather in California right now?
I wasn't able to fetch the current weather for California. Would you like me to try again or provide more?
Okay, so here's the JSON data that you get here. Let me show you. Yeah. So the Vapi assistant sends JSON data here, which is a feature of custom tools. This JSON data, it sends predetermined. Okay, great. So here we should have our parameter. So let's add a node here which can give us the weather. Now here you just need to choose the parameter that we're requesting. Now it needs to be a variable because the user is gonna give a different value each time. So for now we had California. Let's just save it right here. Now let me test this if it actually runs. You can just right click this node and run this module only, so you won't have to like do another call from Vapi. So let's just type in California over here. Great. Yeah, it's giving me temperature, atmospheric pressure, humidity, wind speed as well. That's great. Let's try for London. Great, it's returning me the result. Now I just need to give this result back to my assistant. So I'll do that by adding a webhook response over here. So here the webhook response needs to be in a certain format, or even when your tool is called, your assistant will just say something like, oh, I wasn't able to call the tool correctly, even though the workflow was executed, because it isn't getting the response in the format it wants. So the body needs to be in a certain format. Now let me show you. So you can see here in Vapi docs, the response needs to be a JSON, which will have your tool call ID so that the assistant can know that which tool call is returning the particular data. And this is going to be unique for every tool call. And then under the result field, you can put the data that you want to return to your assistant. So let's just copy it from here. So for the tool call ID, I need this thing. And for the results, I'll return, let's just return the temperature and the humidity and the wind speed. Okay. Okay, there we go. Let's save that. Now let's test if this is actually working. Hello, could you tell me the weather for California right now?
The current weather in California is as follows. Temperature, 26.87 degrees Celsius. Humidity, 53%. Wind speed, 4.12 meters.
Great. That's great.
You're welcome.
So that is pretty much it. Just a basic demo of how the custom tool is going to work. So just for a quick recap, we call the webhook. This is the request format that Vapi sends itself. You'll find the parameters under tool calls and then the function and arguments. Then you just set up your workflow, and at the end of the workflow you add a webhook response, which needs to have this response format for the body, a JSON of this particular format, where we have the unique tool call ID and then the results we want to return. So that is pretty much it. Okay, so next up we have the DTMF tool, which we're going to be using when the caller wants to dial a number on their keypad, and in response you're when we want to perform a particular function. For example, we say press 1 to transfer the call to sales, press 2 to transfer the call to some other department. Now for this you need to have a working active Twilio account, and it's going to take too long to get in this tool, so I'm not going to cover it in this video. Next up, we have the query tool, which you're going to use to query the knowledge bases that you've added over here to extract some data from them. This is mostly used when you have like really detailed knowledge bases, right? And then we have the end call tool, which you use to end the call and say particular messages. That's pretty much it. And then we have the transfer call tool, which, for example, you want to give your AI voice assistant the capability to transfer the call over to a sales rep when the user says, I want to talk to a human or something. So here you can just set a destination, for example, a phone number that you'd transfer the call to. Next up, we have the send text tool. So if you want to send out an SMS, so here you're going to set a Twilio number, which Vapi will use to send the message from to the caller. Then we have the API request. Now, this is used when you want to have a completely custom API request. This is similar to the custom tool, except that you define the header and the body yourself. So you see how there is a predefined request that the AI assistant that Vapi sends over here, right, in the custom tool. But for API requests, you'll have to define that all on your own. But it works pretty much in the same way. So you can use this when you have a custom coded backend server setup, which needs particular headers and a request body in a particular format. And from the response you get, you can extract data from that response into your workflow variables. This won't work for your assistants because assistants don't really have the feature to extract variables from the caller like the workflows does. So if you're using n8n, Make, or Zapier, or any no-code tool, I suggest using this custom tool instead of an API request because it simplifies things so much for you. So next up in integrations, we have the MCP tool. Now this is used to connect to an MCP server, and it's really useful if you want to have multiple tools imported from a single server URL. Now we have the Slack, Google Sheets, and Google Calendar integrations. So here you'll see there is no server URL. So you'll be pretty confused. How do I actually use this? So the way to do it is from your organization settings. You add integrations over there. Let me just show you real quick. So you just go to integrations in your organization settings, and we'll find Slack somewhere over here. Yeah, there we are. So you just click on connect, and similar for Google Calendar and Google Sheets, and it'll take you to a page where you can connect your Slack account to Vapi. So next up you have these Google Sheets and Google Calendar integrations. I seriously don't recommend these because whenever you're adding something to your Sheets or your calendar, you always want to have custom logic in there. This is really just only good for if you want something like, oh, I added some events to my calendar. Yeah, let's go. But it really isn't useful in the real world as of now because there's not much options you can choose from. And I'd always recommend you add custom tool and do it via workflow from make.com. I mean, you can just add a calendar node right here. You have Google Sheets and you have Google Calendar as well. So you can just have custom logic along with adding an event or checking availability from your calendar. So I'd always recommend you use that. And that is pretty much it, guys. I appreciate you watching so far, and I hope this video helped you. If you have any sort of questions, feel free to drop them down below in the comment section and we'll get back to you. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.